You are now listening to Tough Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all being in the live Tough Tiger Talk recap stream, man. LSU upset Knoxville, loses 24-19 recap and reaction. After the loss here, not a very good effort by our Tigers this afternoon. They suffered the first loss of the season. They go 4-1 and 1-1 in SEC play as Ole Miss took it to LSU in this game. Inconsistencies once again with the offense. Continue to hurt the team. Now, we did blow and blast away a team far less inferior to what we were in last week against Southeastern. But once again, when you level up to SEC play, you got to be able to take care of business, family. And we did not do that tonight. We didn't do it today against Ole Miss. It's a tough environment to play. You can see Lane Kiffin was dialed in this one from the word go. And LSU was just not what we wanted offensively speaking. Just really struggled in this matchup. We did get the we did get the first touchdown. Let's just say that, right? Were able to accomplish that. We got the touchdown off the tip. That was pretty good. But then after that, we did not hold like we were supposed to do in the rest of the first half. 14-3 was 17 points put up by them versus 7. And then they just begin to do what they do in the second half. The offense just wasn't there. We can't just put up this small amount, this piddling amount of points. We got to do better offensively. And once again, these offensive issues reappear once we reach SEC level play. And it wasn't a really good, crisp game by Nussmeier. And I heard what Coach Kelly was talking about, him having torso issues and all this kind of stuff. He's supposed to be on the right side of it. But it just wasn't there today, man. Offensively speaking, we couldn't do enough. The offensive line continues to stammer and stumble. We had a couple of injuries on the offensive line, and even when these guys were healthy, they were not impressive. And this is the first loss of the season for the team. This is, I ain't gonna say it's a very much a winnable game, but if you show up and you take some pride in your play, we could have taken this game, even though it was in a difficult environment. I think LSU should have won this contest. And ultimately, we did not. So once again, it's unfortunate. All right, please feel free to hit the comment section, man. Let me know how y'all feel about what y'all seen today in the LSU matchup. What did you guys see that the reason why LSU lost this game? Do you agree with me, or what did you see? Put it in the comment section. Please feel free to react and let me know how you guys feel about this one here. Anyway, like I said, the first touchdown of the game by LSU was the Nick Anderson 7-yard pass from Nussmeier, the little tip up, and then he was able to, it was actually batted up, and he was able to kind of get up under it. And that drive was a 5-play, 67-yard drive. They were up on the board. Then, of course, after that, Ole Miss began to take LSU and started to kind of put things together, and we fell behind. He had the field goal. And after putting together a 7-minute drive, almost a 7.5-minute drive, they held them to just a field goal, they being the defense for LSU. Then the touchdown on a really quick touchdown we went 70 yards in 5 plays, and then the 15-yard pass to Kawan Lacey to get them on the board there. And they were up 10-3 in terms of that. And then, of course, another touchdown that happened before the quarter ended, which was the Caden Lee 2-yard pass from Chambliss. If that was on the back of a 9-play, 69-yard drive, that was about 2:03. So they went into halftime up 17-7 on the Tigers, and that's you thinking they'll make the adjustments coming out on the opposite side. LSU simply didn't do that. LSU comes out of halftime. They did have the 8-play, 33-yard drive for 435. Ramos kicked the 39-yard field goal to get him a little closer. Then later on, the same quarter, he kicked the 48-yarder to add to it again. And then, of course, after that, the fourth quarter touchdown by Logan Diggs, the former LSU running back, was able to blow the thing open. They marched almost a 5-minute drive in 75 yards and just marched up the field. They couldn't stop him. The defense could not contain Chambliss. He was running all over them, throwing all over them, and the defensive line just dominated the offensive line for LSU. They just don't look like an SEC, not any good SEC team offensive line. There's too much inconsistency there. They were getting pushed. And listen, Ole Miss has some talent, but it is the most consecutive and consistent thing that I have seen over these 5 weeks of LSU football was the fact that the defensive line, it doesn't matter if it's La Tech. It doesn't matter if it's Southeastern. It doesn't matter if it's any SEC competition. They seem to struggle against any defensive line. Consistently. In this game, you could see it as well. It showed up again. Now, the last play was Harlan Berry. He had a 6-yard run that was 50 play. A 15-play, 80-yard drive that took over 6 minutes, ate up a lot of time. And then what really happened was so stupid. LSU attempted to do a draw play on the back end of that touchdown, the Harlan Berry 6-yard touchdown run. I don't know what they were trying to do. It was a stupid play that ended disastrously. And then that forced, if they had converted it, it would have put it 24-21. And ultimately, LSU would have to just get the ball back, get in position to kick a field goal with Ramos. But that never would have been the case because they never got the ball back after that. And Ole Miss shut it down on LSU. Now, listen, there was a lot of suspect calling in this game. Let's just keep it all the way real. I did not like how the officials officiated this game. I seen several pass interference calls that should have went our way that just simply didn't happen. But you kind of chalk that up to them getting home cooking and all this kind of stuff. The penalties was outrageous. It was off the chain, but it simply is what it is. Here's Brian Kelly, fam. We're going to go to Brian Kelly for the post game and what he has to say. Here we go.
Well, I mean, the game in itself, right, disappointed in the loss, certainly. But there's a game within the game, right? I mean, I think you start with the first half where our inability to sustain anything on the offensive side of the ball put our defense on the field for over 50 plays. So at the end of the day, when you put it all together for 4 quarters, we didn't play complementary football, which you have to do in this league. You have to be able to complement your offense and defense, and we were out of sync with that. When our offense started to move the ball a little bit, our defense couldn't make a stop. In the first half, we couldn't do anything offensively. We settled for a field goal, or in one instance, we throw a pick down there. We just couldn't get this whole group playing together with the same effectiveness that you need to win games like this. So this is not about they didn't play hard. They got to play fast and free and physical, but they got to know that they have to complement each other. And we can't play this game of, well, we're going to play well defensively for a bit, then we're going to play okay on offense for a bit and go back and forth. This team has to click on all cylinders, and we're not clicking on all cylinders right now. I believe in this team. I love this group. They're really good football players, but we got to get them to complement each other on a day-to-day basis, and in terms of the game itself, not a day-to-day. They prepare very well. So those are my observations. Let's take some questions.
Coach, when it comes to that complementary football, how much of that was maybe affected on the offensive side just by Garrett's health, and did he ever re-aggravate anything during the game play?
Whose health?
Garrett's health.
No, I mean, look, Garrett Nussmeier's got to play better. Every player on offense has got to play better, and then we have to be more consistent on defense. I mean, we there's not one guy that you will put out, Koki, and go, well, that was the reason why we lost. There's many players that have to play their best when their best is needed. We weren't very good on third down, right? We've been a really good third down team. We have to be better on third down, and that's not just Garrett. We got to get open. Our coaches got to get our guys in a position where they can make some plays. And look, you saw it. We didn't. We struggled with completing a deep ball, where they did very, very well completing the deep ball. So I don't want to go too long on the answer, but this is not a Garrett Nussmeier problem. This is an entire football team of guys doing their job at a higher level.
Ron?
You had no penalties in the first quarter, the third quarter, one in the fourth quarter, the second quarter was a disaster. You sucked it deep.
Yeah, we had 4 penalties on defense on the one drive, and they're our best players. And so, look, whether it's a PI or it's a late hit, those are our best, and so you want your team to be aggressive, but we have to play with composure. That drive was so different than anything that they have shown this year, and that's what makes it frustrating for them too.
John?
You feel like Garrett's throwing the ball with the usual velocity that Garrett throws with when he's in his prime or playing at his best?
I mean, the quarterback is going to get micromanaged when you lose games. I get that, Jacques. Look, all I can tell you is, he's healthy. And, again, I think he would tell you, just like Tyree Adams would tell you, just like Chris Hilton would tell you, Barrow Sharp would tell you, we need to play better and more consistent on the offensive side of the ball.
Jared?
Ryan, you talked about the defense needing to play at its best, but how much of this is asking them to do too much at this point?
Well, I mean, clearly we held on for dear life in the first half because we put them on the field for 50 plays. But that wasn't the case in the second half. We didn't have B-gap security. The ball got outside our defense. We had some untimely penalties, and we couldn't get off the field on third down. And they weren't tired. You know what I mean? We just didn't execute at the level that we've been executing at defensively in the second half. And now we're starting to move a little bit and get some rhythm on offense, and now we're not having that same rhythm on defense, right? So, yeah, I think the question is valid for the first half, but the second half, it's, we have to play better.
Brett?
Chambliss he can make it hard, I guess, to get off the field on third down. I mean, what did you think of the difficulty he gave you guys?
I mean, the game's in the balance. It's 3rd and 14, right? At the end of the game, and we're in cover 2, and they throw a dig on us. Like, we got 5 under on that, we should eat that up, right? So, it's a good football player. There's no doubt. I mean, he makes things happen. But we had them in situations on third down. We let them out. We let them out when we had them backed up on that drive that we just mentioned with the 4 penalties. So he's a really good player, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but we did not help in many of these circumstances.
Brian, do you feel like there was enough commitment to the run game early today?
Yeah, when you're up against it, you're trying to carve it out. You're trying to do the best you can. We clearly ran it better in the second half. We had 24 plays. We had 24 plays. It's hard. The game is hard to call when it's one-dimensional in that sense, right? So, I mean, I'll watch the film and I'll do a deep dive on all of those things, but it was hard to get the kind of balance you want with 24 total plays in the first half.
Cowell?
Weston Davis going out right before the game started. Anything affecting the offense there?
Well, we started a true freshman at right tackle. Karius Curran didn't know he was going to start until 22 minutes on the clock in pregame. I'm proud of him. He went in there. He's not afraid. He's not perfect. But I'm proud of the kid. He went in there and he battled his butt off.
It's a long season, and you're not even to the halfway point. What's the message to your team?
Well, you hit it, right on the head, Mike. It's a long season. We're disappointed with today. Ole Miss was the better football team today, but tomorrow comes, and we have to realize that. I love the way this team prepares. We have to perform better. Our performance was not good enough today, and that performance has to be synchronized with both offense and defense. We can't play sporadic football where we have spurts of really good offense and spurts of really good defense. We have to put that together. And that starts with your players recognizing that they have to do their job, not somebody else's, and they do.
Brian, I know you mentioned not one specific player, but can you point to any themes maybe on offense that you think need to be remedied, coming out of the first month of the season?
Yeah, I think one of the things we saw today is the inability to hit the big play down the field. Ole Miss did a great job in some one-on-one matchups. They got a couple of plays that really extended their drives and gave them scoring opportunities. We didn't make a big catch down the field outside the numbers. We made some really good catches inside the numbers in the hash, but you got to hit some of those plays, and we didn't hit any of them.
You mentioned the ineffectiveness on third down on offense, but on defense, I think they were 10 of 18 on third and fourth down with conversions. I mean, what did you see on those downs?
Well, I think I just went over one of the big ones, right? We're in cover 2. I think Blake makes a great call here, and we just don't do a very good job on the dig route where we have 2 defenders underneath it. We just didn't execute at the highest level, and it's kind of what I told you guys and I told the team. I'm telling you the exact same thing I said to them. It's a long season. This is a disappointing loss. I felt that we had the personnel to come in here and win this football game, and we didn't play up to the level that we're capable of. So I have to look at what's our preparation like. Our players feel the preparation was excellent. They've got to perform at a higher level, and we got to put them in good positions to perform at that level.
Good time for 2 more. John?
So the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, first half, you could have separated the score, put some points on the scoreboard because your defense was playing so well, and that didn't happen for you. Is that one of the bigger themes that you kind of talked about?
Well, I think I don't think you just say the first half. I think we needed to play better defense in the fourth quarter, right? And so it's this clear understanding that you can't play in spurts. You have to play complementary football. That will get you victories on the road. We couldn't get that complementary football, especially in the second half. We know what happened in the first half, but we had a whole other half to go. And if we played really well complementary football in the second half, we got a chance to win that football game. We just couldn't do it.
Kofi, last one.
And with going to Harlem more in the second half, what was sort of thought process behind going to the freshman a little more running back?
I think, Koki, we've been in a rotation. I think I've said it to you, right? We're going to use them all, right? And Frank really feels like when he's got a guy that's seeing it and feels hot, he's going to keep him in the game, right? We played Caleb. Obviously, Jawan played. We played all 3 of them. I don't think there's anything to read into that, all of a sudden he's the starting running back or, he's a guy that needs to get more carries. He deserved what he got today. He earned it. But I think we were just, it was what Frank felt was the best guy at that time.
Thank you, Coach.
Good. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's Coach Kelly, man. Thoughts on the game. Do you guys agree with this, man, to be quite honest with you? I don't know, man. I just think at the end of the day, it was a waste. LSU had this game. They had this game in their hands. They had this game, and of course, Coach Kelly is going to try to protect Garrett Nussmeier, but it all starts and most of the time ends and finishes with your quarterback. And Garrett Nussmeier has not lived or even played up to the potential that they thought he was going to bring coming into this game. 21 of 34 for 197, 6 yards average, and just disastrous, horrible throws into triple and double coverage. His decision making, and this is something that we seen last year that he was supposed to improve upon. His decision making in clutch time moments and just bad gambling in trying to throw himself into completions in these weird coverages. It just didn't work. And he struggled today. The team struggled. When Nussmeier plays well, the team plays well. And the LSU just didn't go up there with the proper temperament to take care of business, man, in this matchup. And they go down 19-24. They lose their first game of the season, man. Let's hit up the stats, the team stats. 28 first downs by Ole Miss. That's ridiculous. Almost 30 versus LSU 16. LSU, you talk about stats. They were a horrible, miserable, stinking 2 of 11 on third down versus Ole Miss 8 of 16. So they're 2 for 11. Ole Miss is 8 of 16 for 50%. Both of them were good on fourth downs. Total yards, almost 500 yards worth of offense by Ole Miss. 480 versus 254 by LSU. That's all you need to know. Look at the yards. They just weren't just moving it. And LSU didn't particularly do a lot of stuff well, but most certainly the defense, I guess you could say the defense did enough for LSU offense to put up at least another touchdown. If you score another touchdown, you actually could have walked out of there, but you're not going to I ain't talking about getting a shootout with Ole Miss, but I think they did enough to tamp down in 24 points versus what Ole Miss, this attack that Lane Kiffin likes to roll out. But 19 points ain't going to cut it against Ole Miss. And, of course, the defense had a few flubs and breakdowns. They attacked Woodland on that opposite side and some very curious calls. But in the end of the day, you realize that's what you deal with when you go into hostile territory. 314 to 197 advantage Ole Miss in terms of passing yards. The rushing attack, 166 yards that Ole Miss put up on LSU versus 57 yards. They had 45 carries for 166 yards. They averaged 4 yards, almost 4 yards a carry for Ole Miss. LSU a miserable stinking 22 of 57 for 2.6. Ole Miss had double the penalties as LSU and still won this game. They had 14 penalties for over 100 yards. LSU had 7 of them for 78. They actually, the penalty, even though the 9 calls were egregious, but most certainly we could have taken advantage of that. Time of possession, not so much, 32-22 versus 27-38. LSU just didn't. They weren't smart with the possessions that they have. 2 for 11 on third down tells you a lot. It really does. We did not execute. And he talked about, and Coach Kelly heard him mention, and talked about stacking this and that third and complementary football and all this type of stuff. I mean, he has to really look at this offensive line and Garrett Nussmeier's play. He did say Garrett Nussmeier's play get better and all this kind of. He's the one. I mean, you had the backup quarterback from Ole Miss outplayed Nussmeier. Trinidad Chambliss was 23 of 39 for over 300 yards. He averaged over 8 yards every time he threw the ball. He had a pick, but a touchdown, but he was also able to move the offense based on his scrambling. 14 carries for 71 yards with a 5.1 average. So he impacted the game in 2 ways. Garrett Nussmeier simply just didn't make that happen. Nussmeier is a guy that is not much of a mover around. He kind of slides around in the pocket. He'll take off when he needs to. But the decision making of Garrett Nussmeier, watching him, was really just shitty, especially coming out into the second half. Harlem Berry came in 7 of 22 for a touchdown, 3.1 yard. Juwan Johnson had 6 for 18. Caleb Jackson had 1 for 10. And Baron Brown, they gave it the ball to different cats. It just wasn't, the rushing attack wasn't spectacular at all. It wasn't really. Xavier Thomas had 3 catches for 63 yards. Baron Brown had 5 for 40, 2 for Nick Anderson for 28 yards in the score. Kyle Parker had 4 for 23. Aaron Anderson had some injuries in the game. He was 2 for 12, not nearly as effective as we would like our little playmaker to be. He's banged up. Weeks had some issues as well in the game. He left with 10 tackles. Guy fell on him. We'll see what that looks like on Monday. What's going on with him. A.J. Hawsey was the top guy, 13 tackles. Delaney was the second with 11. So those are the guys. P.J. Woodland got cooked today on that opposite side. And, of course, the sacks, non-existent. We did not have a sack at all, defensively speaking, in this game. We didn't get after the quarterback Chambliss. We allowed him to scramble for 70-something yards and did not get a sack at all. So it wasn't, it just wasn't a good thing. But, Woodland was being cooked out there. He did get the interception and all this kind of stuff. So outside of that, like I said, it was just a game that LSU had an opportunity to get a close win in a tough environment and go 5-0. Instead, they'll collect the first loss of the season Ole Miss will look to climb. LSU, we'll see where they fall in the rankings as their number 4. But man, listen, this was a very winnable game. But if you think about it, man, you want the team to win. But if you think about it, man, LSU, I was happy that they did they scored a lot of points against Southeastern. That's what they were supposed to do. But I did have concerns in terms of how would it look against an SEC opponent when you go from a far inferior opponent to a opponent that's near or at your level. How would that then turn out to be? How will you be able to take care of business in their difficult environment? Well, guess what? They didn't handle the business at all. They had an opportunity to win the game. It was stupid decision making by Garrett Nussmeier, gutless, weak ass, non-confident play by this offensive line. Now they're dealing with all type of injuries. So if I was Coach Kelly, and far be it me to say what Kelly needs to do just to be an observer of the game of football and being a person that can be able to tell the difference between good football versus bad football, and being that football is not a complex sport, it's actually a child's game being played by young people and young grown men or young adults and or older men in the pros. That the problem with that I'm seeing is that the temperament, the confidence is not there in terms of how the offensive line. The offensive line is rickety. It doesn't allow for you to run the football, and it provides an uneasy floor and for Nussmeier to play. Then we talk about him having these different injuries as they talked about, but the injuries might be a part of it. I'm not certain on that, but what I see from Garrett Nussmeier is just stupid decision making, firing the ball in places where it doesn't need to be, not seeing the field properly. He's staring people down too. So it's just like and listen, when you have a bad offensive line and guys getting at you, rushing you, sacking you, that kind of speeds the clock up in your head. And if you're not really a crystal, if your concepts and what you need to do are not crystallized or refined, then you'll tend to start making mistakes. And that's what Nussmeier is making a ton of mistakes with these bad decisions and putting the football where it doesn't need to be. He's not seeing that other receivers and better options are there. So whatever Coach Kelly does, it seems like even when they were winning a few of these games close, there were obvious areas of concern. But when you start getting into your SEC schedule, a lot of those things that you didn't fix early on, like these offensive line issues, they won't bode well. And if you have championship aspirations, you got to get this together, because 2 or 3 losses and all this bullshit, 3 losses and all this kind of stuff, as we barrel on into the rest of the season, this loss is going to hurt, man. Moving forward, this was the loss that wasn't supposed to happen. Anyway, what's next as we move forward? What's next for LSU is quite simply, they will face off against South Carolina, who's 2-2, 0-2 in SEC play. That'll be happening. This will be a flex game between 3:30 and 4:30 or 6 a.m., 8 p.m. We'll know as we get into, probably more than likely, we'll definitely know by Sunday when this game will be, and whether it be a 3:30 game or a night game under the lights in Death Valley, as LSU looks to get back on the right side of things. They'll play a very tough quarterback in Lenore Sellers, who is right now got 733 yards, 4 touchdowns in the pick. You'll see him matched up there. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens there. This should be an opponent we should be able to get another win. But like I said, man, this is who we got coming up next. Mr. Sellers and the South Carolina Gamecocks looking to upset the day. Tim says they can't lose anymore. If you're looking for an opportunity, fam, to play, and that's, if you notice, Coach Kelly's temperament, the pressure's really getting into him, with him this 4th year, with everything's going on, because this is the year, this is your team. You've had all these years, it's no longer, you can't see this the other coach's team. This is his team. This is what he's built over the last several years. So if they're struggling, stumbling, bubbling, remember he did all these things to bring in these different coaches and doing all this kind of stuff. And I think the defense would look better if the offense did. I think the offense needs to get up off the snot and start putting some consistent games together against quality opponents to build confidence, because if this drags on, if they get deeper into the schedule, some of these other SEC teams that do have their offense together, LSU is going to have a problem. And we know Coach Kelly talked about the defense leading the way and all this kind of stuff. I think that was kind of a piece of side jargon to kind of take the pressure off of Doug Nussmeier in the offense, to say that, oh, the defense and special teams playing, running the football and all this kind of stuff. When you can't really run the football. They're not passing consistently well because the offensive line stinks. They're not running the ball well because the offense stinks. The offensive line stinks. So until he some kind of way finds the right collection of talent of players on the offensive line to kind of solidify that, fix that, they're going to continue to struggle and have pressurous situations where they underperform. And the defense has to bail them out, or the special teams have to bail them out because the offense is incompetent. Nussmeier's bad decision-making, the offensive line's injuries, and just woeful play altogether. Before they were getting all banged up and hurt, they were playing shitty. I mean, let's just keep it all the way filthy. But in the end, man, it's just what it is. We have to see. So, man, y'all hit that like button, man, for me. If you're not a sub up to Tough Tiger Talk, man. We up in this thing. Recapping it, man. Upset in Oxford. LSU loses 24-19. They fall to 4-1 and 1 in SEC play. And in terms of the standings, you know, it's no longer East and West in the standings. LSU and Ole Miss at one point were sitting there in terms of on the top of the SEC. As you can look at the standings to your left right here, Ole Miss is taking the lone spot right here. They're the only team in the SEC that's 3-0 in conference play and 5-0. They take sole possession right now. Of course, Vanderbilt's up there at 5-0, and we will face Vanderbilt in 2 weeks. So you had Ole Miss today. You will take on South Carolina, which is statistically scheduled, I mean, from a standing standpoint, the worst team in the SEC. And then 2 weeks from now, you will travel to Vanderbilt to take on the number 18 ranked Vanderbilt Commodores, who are currently 5-0, 1-0, so in the conference play. So we'll see how it all looks going forward, because the next, outside of South Carolina, behind them at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Alabama are all currently ranked. And this is the stretch. This shouldn't have been a loss, but simply it is. LSU drops. You see where they're at, 4-1 and 1. Season's not over with, but they have to do something about the offensive line. They got to clean that up. Get it together, man. Get it together. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to, Rose says Nuss. Yeah, Nuss's decision is really something. Yeah, Sloan was looking Sloan was looking in the booth like, what is he doing? You know, he was looking really confused. That's just something they got to do, fam. With that, anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Listen, I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow on the Sports Coma channel, man. We'll be doing the play-by-play for the Saints versus the Buffalo Bills. Tomorrow's Saints are trying to get a win. LSU collects their first loss of the season, and then the Saints looking for their first win of the season, the dichotomy. With that being said, I'm out. I'm going to holler at y'all on the flip side. Much love, and go Tigers.
Talk channel and stay up to date for all things LSU football.